Hi everyone, Luigi Nintendo here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Adventures album, Supersonic Home.
Okay, yeah, but is this that real indie rock?
How do you know what this record is? I didn't even say the genre yet.
Because I only listen to that real indie rock, the real stuff.
What even makes something real indie rock to you?
You know, guitars?
Okay, alright, never mind. Debut full-length LP here from Pittsburgh band Adventures, which lands on Run for Cover Records, a little Boston indie label. They've been building a steady following since the label formed about 10 years ago, catering to a new crop of bands that sound like lost emo and indie rock relics from the 90s. A lot of the bands on this label, in my opinion, perform and record with a kind of amateurish flair or lack thereof, a lot of which I don't really care for, even though there are some groups I do find interesting or enjoyable on the roster of this label. Like I do enjoy some Self-Defense family songs. They're also working with Mech Thaverscan. They've also put out a record with experimental abstract New Jersey rapper GDP, and I am looking forward to that new Elvis Presley record. And on the label's YouTube channel, they also host a weekly Q&A segment called Tuesdays with Tay, which has been one of my favorite web series over the past year. And while I'm not really huge on a bulk of the material the label releases, they always make their records readily available to stream, and I do like to try to keep up to date on what they're putting out just to kind of see if something grabs my attention. And voila! We are here now with this new Adventures album. Like much of the Run for Cover roster, Adventures pulls their sound from the 90s, specifically the genres of indie pop and rock, power pop, and a bit of emo, maybe a touch of twee as well, even though that came earlier. I digress. But a lot of the clean guitars and performances and the really catchy hooks on this album, to me, say that the band is also kind of hip to a lot of the radio-friendly alternative rock that was coming out during that decade as well. Bands like Smashing Pumpkins, maybe just a little bit of Third Eye Blind. And there's something about the vocals of frontwoman Reba Myers that kind of reminds me of the Cranberries. Maybe not quite so yelpy, but there are some nasally and twanged inflections there that do remind me of some of the Cranberries' biggest tracks. There are also some really tight vocal harmonies that play a very prominent role throughout much of this album, and for the most part sound great, even if some of the singing is a little green, a little amateurish to a degree. And even though the vocals on this record can be a little shaky at times, they could be a little nasally, I don't think they ruin the enjoyment of these tracks. I actually think they add a very youthful innocence to these songs that's really endearing and matches up very nicely with the sweet, blissful pop rock melodies on a lot of the songs here. Also, let it be known there's kind of a moody, angsty vibe going on with some of these tracks too. As far as the instrumentation goes, it's pretty straightforward and dare I say plain in a sense. It's really just vocals, guitars, bass, drums, most of the time being played at a very easygoing mid-pace tempo. The very punchy, clean recording and mix balances everything very nicely, and the performances overall are very fluid, they're very tight, they're not too stiff or anything like that. It definitely fits the emotional and very gentle energy behind these tracks. And even though there are things on this album worth praising, there isn't too much on this record that is altogether new. I don't even really find the guitar tones or the vocals on this album, as enjoyable as they are, to be that distinct, especially with some of the deja vu riffs on this album here and there. But there is magic on this album, and I think it lies mostly in the very well-crafted hooks and vocal melodies on this record, many of which I found myself singing along to even on just the second listen to this project, like with the song Heavenly, the vocal harmonies on the chorus here, which is really big, really lush and rich. There's so much more to see than you think. Getting choked up a little. On the song My Marble Home, the band picks up a bit of speed and does a little jangle pop with this track, but still maintains their usual vibe, so the slight genre transition goes over very smoothly. The song Pure, the slow, ringing guitar chords at the beginning of this track are so anthemic. It's like a Creed song, but good. Then after this, we shift into a kind of shy verse with very reserved vocals. Eventually, we hit some heavier guitars, some louder, bolder vocal harmonies. And even though this track isn't one of the catchier in the bunch here, it is a show of Adventures writing pretty dynamic songs with numerous parts. I love the climactic ending of this track too. There's also the song Walk to Bed, smooth, catchy, sweet, or the song Long Hair, which sounds like the perfect soundtrack to lying down in a field in the spring underneath the sun with someone you got a real crush on. And the song Tension, one of my favorites on here, finds a lot of power in just these very simple, downstroked guitars, just gains tension from these guitars. And at least from what I can interpret in the lyrics here, it just kind of seems like loving someone for the wrong reasons, kind of like they're just a plaything. You're wanting this person for the tension, and that's it. Not the attention, which I actually think was a bit of a play on words on this track. It kind of seems like you would want someone for the attention, but instead Adventures want someone for just the tension. Overall, it's not a bad record. I found it really enjoyable. It was sweet. It was fun. Could sing along to it. It just stuck in my mind. I guess, again, my big gripe with this LP, though, is that it's really just nothing all that novel or refreshing. To me, it was just a bit of very well written, well played, and well put together nostalgia with a kind of shy personality. I think Adventures is off to a great start with this LP. There are definitely some standout tracks here, but there's most definitely room to grow as well, I would say. I'm feeling a decent strong 7 on this thing. Tran? Zishin, if you've given this album a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? And that's it. Adventures, Supersonic Home, forever.